All right, friends, we're going to get started in just a minute. So if you are an MML member, come and join us at the back of the stage. Dan, you might as well start here and start in the middle. Let's have all of our speakers are going to be come up tight to the podium.
Yep, speakers step forward. George goes to the back. You're kind of a back row guy.
Spot here.
Speak up.
What, you can't see me behind Dan?
Oh my God. We don't want to block.
Wow. You got to come in front because you're a speaker. Barb will fit in.
Whose hand is that? That wasn't my foot.
That's okay.
What you gonna do? We don't need to be flashing to the audience. I'd rather you see it than them.
That's how you make sure you're showing up. This would definitely be on the news.
All right. Good morning, everyone. This is exciting for me. I've never been in the front row before. I've been standing in the back row, family pictures since sixth grade. So I'm excited to be up here. I'm Dan Gilmartin. I'm the executive director and the CEO of the Michigan Municipal League. And we're here today to discuss a new proposal, the Michigan Home Program. Standing here with us are league board members who are local officials, state legislators, developers, and home builders. I want to take this moment to thank every one of them for being here today and say thank you to Mayor Andy Shore for hosting us here today. I'm not sure who's in charge of weather. It's the county, right? It's got to be the county today. Access to attainable housing is a topic of discussion in every city and village and township in this state, in every state legislature, and in Congress. Here in Michigan, we've identified the need, put forward a statewide housing plan, made significant investments, and changed policy to help. Each of these has been successful, but we must continue to work together if more progress is to be made. It could not have been clearer to me than when I was sitting with my colleagues from other state leagues last week, sharing our concerns about this issue and how it affects communities. It's why we stand here today as partners to put forward a bold solution that will build more attainable housing units all across the state. In other states, we have seen preemption of local voices in this process with little to no results to show for it. Michigan should choose a different path, one that focuses on partnership over prevention. The Michigan Home Program proposes a state investment of $160 million annually for 5 years to accelerate the development of more than 10,000 attainable housing units and spark lasting, market-driven housing solutions through 4 targeted programs that fund updates to zoning regulations in support of housing needs. They provide grants to fill finance gaps when building or rehabbing attainable housing. Create a revolving loan fund to address finance gaps long-term, and to provide ongoing funding for the Employer-Assisted Housing Fund within MISTA. Rather than preempting, this program promotes local zoning reform by encouraging more than a dozen specific housing-related zoning changes and unlocking Michigan Home Program grants and loans in communities that have made at least half of those changes. I apologize for the microphone. Eligible properties include single unit houses, duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, townhomes, row houses, condos in a complex and condos in a community, dwelling units in a mixed-use structure and modular homes. Properties awarded a grant shall be sold or rented to individuals who have an annual income of not more than 100 to 120% of the area median income. It also ensures the properties stay attainable for no less than 10 years. We've seen something similar adopted successfully in Ohio, and recently the U.S. Senate Banking Committee passed a bipartisan housing proposal 24-0. It was spearheaded by Tim Scott, a Republican from South Carolina, and Elizabeth Warren, a Democrat from Massachusetts. They had unanimity among members on that particular committee, and the similarities between what they are choosing to do at the federal level matches almost directly with what we're trying to do here in the state. This is a bold, detailed strategy that will make a real impact on housing here in Michigan. Thank you for joining us today to hear about the Michigan Home Program. And I now would like to turn it over to our board president, the Michigan Municipal League, Mayor Don Gary from the city of Sault Ste. Marie.
As a true Youper, I had 2 snow brushes in my car, but no umbrella, so I was not prepared. Good morning. I've served on the League's board for 4 years, the last 2 years as vice president and this year president. This role has given me the great opportunity to visit communities everywhere from Houghton to Monroe and Sterling Heights in Lower Michigan. And everywhere I go, one of the top issues I hear is housing. Whether it's a handful of units or several thousand units, the need for more housing exists all across Michigan. Our board spent the better part of the last year discussing the issue in detail, and we felt it was necessary to put forward a serious proposal to address some of the housing issues we face in our local communities. We also recognize that local governments can and need to continue to do more to make our communities more housing ready. Unfortunately, while we have been making progress, we have seen efforts to preempt our local zoning and censor the voice of our citizens on these issues. We don't believe this approach is appropriate, nor will it lead to building of more attainable housing units. That is why we are collectively standing before you today to talk about solving this issue through partnerships and not preemption. From Michigan's oldest city to Michigan's capital city, I would like to introduce the mayor of City Lansing, Andy Shore.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Welcome, everybody. We're proud to welcome you all here at Lansing City Hall. One of the last events at Lansing City Hall is we're getting a new one next year. Very excited. So welcome. And honestly, I'm going to go off script here. I can't believe what Dan just said. He said Ohio did this before us. So if we need no other reason to do this, it's because Ohio has beaten us to it, but we're going to do it better because that's what we do. I'm excited to be standing here today with the Michigan Municipal League, with my colleagues from other communities, with our state elected officials, with builders and developers, everybody who's committed to working with local government to solve the very real issues of housing. Earlier this year in my state of the city, I spoke about the need for more housing in Lansing. And the governor and Mishta have both talked about housing across the state. In fact, this has been talked about nationally. I'm on the U.S. Conference of Mayors board. The Ohio mayor of Columbus created a task force. This was his biggest issue. This is something we are seeing nationally, and we are not immune from it in Lansing or Saginaw or any of the other communities here standing with us. We know that this is important. In Lansing, we've broken ground on several new developments that'll lead to hundreds of new housing units throughout our city. And we are going to use the tools that we have to make sure that we can maximize as many of these units as we can. We're doing housing for all. That's been my mantra. Whether it is market, whether it is workforce, attainable, affordable, subsidized, we're doing it all. Right here, you're going to see a 28-story building with mixed incomes. You're going to see Lansing Housing Commission with 100 units right next to that. You're seeing it over on MLK where we're building, and we're going literally from homelessness to housing. We're doing as much as we can. But we know that more needs to be done because we have a lot of residents that want to move here to Lansing and to all these other communities behind us. Having worked personally for years on bringing these current developments to reality, there are a few things I want to highlight. First, Lansing has worked hard to make sure that our zoning ordinances are housing ready. We have instituted form-based code. We have decreased parking minimums. We have just passed and are starting to allow what are called ADUs, accessory dwelling units. We're doing the things that we need to do to make sure that that the structure is there to make sure that when we get the investment, we have the ability to use that investment. But the biggest issue that we regularly face is making the finance numbers work. Whether it is saying that it doesn't pencil out, whether it's saying that there are finance gaps, that's the issue. Someone comes to me and says, I want to create more housing in Lansing, any of those categories, from market rate to affordable to attainable. And they say, we can't get the loan to match the cost. We know that costs are going up for whatever reasons, and we cannot get the numbers to pencil out. So that's really why I'm extremely excited about what the Municipal League is proposing. Not only does it reward and incent local zoning changes like we have made and many communities have made, but it also assists builders and developers to fill the finance gaps to get these projects done, to make sure that we can have these housing units available for people, which, by the way, will bring down the costs because this is basic supply and demand. These valuable resources can be utilized immediately and will result in more housing units being built in Lansing and across Michigan. Now, as a former legislator, and I know some of my legislative friends here, the first question I'm going to get from the media is, where's the money coming from? Right? That I've seen that when I was on the county, when I was in the state house, now as mayor. And it's a fair question, but to me, this is a matter of priority. You're hearing from everybody up here the priority of housing. You heard from the mayor of Sault Ste. Marie. You're hearing from everyone. This is one of the top priorities. So when you build a budget, you put your priorities in first. You have to do your mandatory things, but you put your priorities in. And when housing is a priority, then this has to be one of the first things talked about. This has to be added to the budget first. So we need to make sure that that happens. And again, having some legislators here, bipartisan, to talk about that, to me is incredibly exciting. This is buy-in from all levels. If this is the priority we claim it to be, then we have to invest in it. This proposal provides a way to solve the problem together. And we in Lansing, and I think everybody up here, look forward to working with the legislators that are here and those that are across the street, as we say, to make this a reality. So thank you. Welcome to City Hall. I now want to turn it over to State Representative Mark Tisdale from the legislature to talk about his perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Shore. And just want to thank the Michigan Municipal League. They put together a municipal caucus of about 38 legislators with local government experience prior to coming to Lansing. And we've been working on this housing issue for quite some time. In the last term, talking to with John Lamacchia and Jennifer Rigterink at MML, we've been trying to figure out how to cajole communities into making the needed zoning and code enforcement changes, and how to govern with carrots instead of sticks. And my job here today is a little bit of show and tell. So on February 13th, in a restaurant in downtown Rochester, Dan Gilmartin, John Lamacchia, and I sat down and we sketched out exactly how this would work. So 6 months later, now we're ready to we're ready to roll this out. There are a couple of stains over in this area. That's where John was sitting. But so this is something we've been talking about, working on, and trying to, again, come up with, how do you govern with carrots instead of sticks? And you think from an administrative standpoint, we can regulate and then enforce. You send out enforcement officers and try and figure out who's complying and who isn't. Or we can regulate and reward. We can sit here in Lansing and allow communities to come to us with documentation on what they've done, and then open up resources for those patterns of behavior that will help increase affordable housing in the state of Michigan. It's a simple choice: partnership with communities, or we preempt them through mandates from Lansing. I think everyone up on this, well, I know everyone up on this stage is for partnership, carrots over sticks. Before I leave, little confusion in schedules. Representatives Jamie Green and Ron Robinson wanted to be here today, wanted to put their names behind this, but were just simply unable to attend. My great pleasure now to turn it over to my friend from Saginaw, Representative Amos O'Neill. Or
Thanks, Rep Tisdale.
my other friend from Farmington Hills, Representative Samantha Steckloff.
Thank you, Rep Tisdale. You know, I was going to say I look forward to joining you on this legislation, but I think we need some more things to figure out. Good morning, everyone. Several weeks ago, the League approached me about a housing proposal they were working on, and is an issue that I have been wanting to help tackle. The Michigan Home Program is an excellent opportunity for the state to build upon its current efforts and successes around housing. In the communities I represent and beyond, access to attainable housing is a major concern. Rather than talking about the need we have and the crisis that exists, I've decided that I want to do something about it. And that is why I'm proud to put my name behind this proposal with Representative Tisdale. Whether you're a teacher, a nurse, a construction worker, or anything in between, we want to make sure that there's a home for you in Michigan. For the employer that wants to expand their business, we want to make sure there's attainable housing available so you'll have an easier time attracting and retaining employees. For us to provide these opportunities and grow our communities, we must act as partners. Having served on the Farmington Hills City Council, I know how important access to stable housing options for a community. And I'm so happy to have my very own mayor, and actually former seatmate, Farmington Hills Mayor Teresa Rich, along with our sister city from Farmington, Mayor Joe LaRussa. Like Representative Tisdale, I also have a few colleagues that couldn't be here today. Representative John Fitzgerald, as well as Senator Moss, asked me that I share their support on this proposal. I will now turn it over to Dan Dimitrov with RDS Management.
Thank you, Representative Steckloff, and thanks to MML for bringing this proposal forward. It's incredibly timely. A lot of the work I do is on the sort of bleeding edge of some of this stuff, right? So you have to have enough houses to bring in extra jobs. You have to be able to think long-term about really growth-minded progress here. So as a local developer, I understand firsthand the challenges of moving a housing project from vision to completion. The cost of materials, labor, and lending have increased exponentially in recent years. This has resulted in pushing potential buyers, renters out of market, and in some cases, killing entire projects. We're a little caught in limbo on that, right? Unfortunately, these are missed opportunities to build better communities, to create financial security for individuals and families, and attract entrepreneurs and new business. For us to be successful, we simply cannot let these opportunities slip away any longer. If what we desire are better communities that attract, retain, and grow talent, then we must invest in solutions that solve problems and build partnerships. The Michigan Home Program does that, providing direct funding to builders and developers to quickly create more attainable housing units is the fastest and easiest way to fill the finance gap created by rising material, land, labor, and lending costs. Targeting those resources within communities that have adopted zoning best practices for housing will maximize our return on these investments. I encourage others to join us in supporting this proposal and look forward to the introduction and passage of the Michigan Home Program. Just as an aside, Michigan is absolutely primed for great growth, and I really appreciate both the thoughtfulness and intention behind this initiative. I'll now turn it over to Brian Farkas with Allen Edwin Homes.
Thank you, Dan. I'm incredibly excited to be here today. As many of you know, Allen Edwin Homes recently stood with state leaders and committed to building over 2,500 additional homes over the next 10 years in communities around Michigan, all supported by MISHTA's housing programs. When we announced that, I said something then that is just as true today. We are standing here in support of the My Homes program. We're doubling down on Michigan because we believe this is a place where leaders are committed to partnerships and to creative solutions. The proposal put forward by leaders from local government once again shows the importance of partnership and creative solutions. This targeted type of investment mixed with efforts to update local zoning and best practices, is one that is being discussed in DC and should be adopted here. The My Home program is a Michigan solution which could serve as a national model. If we are going to continue addressing the state's housing needs, it is these types of solutions and collective efforts that will get it done. I'll now turn it over to Senator O'Neill, or State Rep O'Neill. Sorry, sir. Didn't mean to promote you.
Hey, what can I say? Well, thank you, Brian, for that commitment, and thank you for considering Michigan. This is it's very amazing to see state and local leaders, Democrats and Republicans, and as you found out, Mark Tisdale's famous and favorite Democrat is Amos O'Neill, as he mentioned me before my time. But, the private sector and standing here on the steps or inside the City Hall and supporting initiatives like this is so important. But before we close, there's a final thing I want to mention. While much of this conversation has been about the creation of housing, I want to bring up something that's very, very important: creating of wealth, the creation of wealth. As you know, housing was one of our major and main investments that we make as individuals and families. And so when you think about the individuals and families owning a home, and the key part of that is establishing and passing it down to generations. I'm from Saginaw, and I'm fortunate to have my mayor here with me, but cities like Flint, Saginaw, and Pontiac, look at the stats from 2013 to 2023 in terms of housing ownership from Black, White, Latino. And so, for example, between that age, that period of time, 63.9% of white families own homes versus 49.1% of Black families. That's in Flint in Genesee County. In Saginaw, my city, 70% of white ownership versus 50% of Black ownership. And then in Pontiac, 50% of white ownership versus 39.8% of Black. Why am I saying that? Because we're talking about making sure that the playing field is fair, but it has to be equitable as well. So when you think about generational wealth, you have to make sure we create opportunities for all families, all races to have access to those opportunities, because it's so important. And so with that, I want to especially again thank my mayor for having the vision for Saginaw, Mayor Brenda F. Moore, who is the former president of MML, first African-American president of MML, is that correct? Yep. And so I want to thank everyone for being here today and joining us, and I'm going to turn it back over to Dan Gilmartin to take and facilitate any questions you may have. Dan.
Thank you, Congressman O'Neill. Yeah, that's right. You stick around, it gets better, I think. I ended my initial comments by saying this is a bold, detailed, inclusive strategy that will make a real impact in our state. And that's really what we're after. And you've been able to hear from folks from all over Michigan for the last several minutes and many different walks of life who believe the same thing. So with that, we will be happy to take any questions that folks might have. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Jordan Hermany, Bridge, Michigan. I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly based off of Mayor Shor's comments. This is not a funded initiative. This is a budgetary request for $160 million?
Correct. This is an additional request as part of a larger initiative. So the initiative is all encompassing. It basically has locals acting in a different way. It's allowing for more housing to happen, whether that's new housing being built or housing being rehabbed. And it's an investment from the state to provide some of those funds that are absolutely needed to make sure that we're reaching those goals.
And so I guess if I could follow up, kinds of conversations have you had? I understand we obviously have Democrats and Republicans up here, but it's, your budgetary negotiations have been going not great recently. I guess what kinds of guarantees do you even have that this will be able to?
Well, I'm not sure of any guarantees in this town. This is a proposal that we have, and again, which one of our speakers said, I think it was Mayor Shore, and one of the legislators may want to come up and help answer this question if you want. But If this is a priority for the state, we need to act like that. We've been hearing for years that there's a housing crisis. We've been hearing for years, that's right, that we need to do this stuff. And quite frankly, it's a lot of talk. And then some of the things, some of the programs that have been brought forward are little bites at this and bites at that, and may help a single project or a single development in some part of the state, but it's not going to fill a gap in the many thousands of new housing units that we need on an annual basis moving forward. So if that is the case, and we hear that from government, we hear that from industry, we hear that from legislators, the executive office, pretty much anybody and everybody, this is a high priority issue. So making it a high priority issue from a budget standpoint, we believe makes the most sense as we move forward. So that's the crown behind that particular position.
Dan,
And
if I may, just real quickly. So this is $160 million potential. It's money that is awarded or rewarded only after the fact, only after communities have engaged in the zoning and code ordinance changes that are desired at the state level and will make a difference. The governor has rightly told us several times how many hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars we've spent over the last several years in generating more housing. This is a relatively small portion of that. And again, it's not upfront money, and we hope. This is money after results.
Anyone else want to shot that one? No? Okay. Sir.
Frank Waldron, you made a comment just in the middle and follow up on. The state has invested tens of millions of dollars, maybe as much as $160 million, I haven't calculated up, writing checks for specific projects. There's a lot of the local elected officials out there, communities have benefited maybe from these projects that state lawmakers take. Are you saying that strategy is not working?
No, we're not saying that strategy is not working. We're saying it's not sufficient to do everything. We need a system change here in the state. I mean, this is a bold, detailed, multifaceted project. We talk about partnership. We talk about everybody bringing something to the table to make sure that we're moving this thing ahead in a way that gets us to results that we're actually looking for. So while it's great to be able to squeeze money for a particular project out of a budget that provides maybe 50 units or 500 units, we need thousands of units in every corner of the state. And to do that, we have to change really the entire system in terms of how we're doing, not change the system, improve on the system that we have at the local government level, at the state government level, and certainly funding is part of that. So this is an addition to and has people all working in conjunction to make sure that we've got more fertile ground, if you will, for building, for development, for redevelopment than we've had in the past. And again, it gets at the entire system and not just simply this project or that project, the way we've been doing a lot of things over the last several years. Anybody else want to shout that one? No? Okay. Any other questions? No. Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you for coming, and everybody up here is available. We also have lots of local officials here: Hazel Park, Lapeer, Sterling Heights, Monroe, all over. Kentwood's back there somewhere. I can't see everybody behind me. Harper Woods. But if you have any individuals you'd like to speak to, we're all here and we'll all be available. Thank you very much for coming out today. Thanks, everyone.